authenticate the routes. We discussed about how to use cookies like concept. So in the routing, we learned about route parameters, nested routes, and authenticating the routes. So now we have to implement this route in one example. Already we designed example, but we have to implement this in a project. We will see how do we do in a project. So one more question I given in the last session, that is about what are search parameters. So yesterday we discussed about how to handle dynamic navigation. Dynamic navigation is handled by using use navigate hook. By using use navigate hook, we can do that. Search parameter is nothing but, so it refers to query string. Query string. So data can be submitted by form as a query string. Actually, we don't recommend every time to submit data as query string, but because it is not safe, we always want the form to submit its data on which request post. But sometimes we submit the data on get request. Why to submit data on get request? Why to submit data on get request, which is not a recommended way. Always it is recommended to submit data on which request post. But why we submit data on get request? When we submit data on get request, data will be in query string. Why we submit data on get request? What is the advantage? The advantage of submitting data on get request is it saves round trips. That means in a fraction of time, if you want same data again and again, then instead of every time fetching from server, it will store the data in the buffer, and from the buffer it will give the data. This mechanism, every time going to server and getting the data, is called round trip. Saving in the buffer and getting it from the buffer is saving the round trips. So generally data is submitted on get request to save round trips. That's what you learned in HTML. So you learned in HTML, when a form submitted on get request, it can cache the data. On post request, it cannot cache the data. Caching is nothing but storing the data in buffer. So data can be submitted by form as query string on as query string. Actually, it saves round trips. It saves round trip. It saves round trip. So the hook use search params is used to access and use the query string. Use the query string. How JavaScript can access and use the query string? JavaScript can access and use the query string by using location search. Location search. So how JavaScript can access query string? So by using location search. That is what here search parameter means. So Syntactically, query string will be like this: HTTP localhost slash here path question mark key value ampersand another key and value. Like this, we can pass a query string. So when data is submitted in query string, it is not submitted as route parameter. It is submitted as query string, key and value collection. I already showed you one point, how to transport data from one component to another. We can use context, we can use reducer, we can use cookies. Yesterday we saw cookies. We can use route parameters. By using route parameter also, we can transport data from one component to another. So if a component is parameterized, then we can easily pass the route parameter, we easily pass the values into the component. Then why you need all these techniques? If a component is parameterized, then we can pass values into it directly. We don't need all these techniques. Then why you need all these techniques? That point also I discussed. In interviews, they ask like, if a component is parameterized, we can pass value into it. Then why you need query string or why you need route parameters? Like for that, what is the answer we discussed? The answer is it is possible only if the component is a controlled component. If a component is uncontrolled component, then we cannot pass any parameters into it. Then how do you pass the data? By using these all techniques, by using cookies, by using context, by using reducer, by using this, we can transport the data. If a component is an uncontrolled component, then you can pass the data into it by using query string, by using route parameters, by using context, by using use reducer, and by using cookies, right? So this is actually how we can access. For example, let's see a basic point here. We will later implement in one project how to handle this. Let's see one example here. So here I am adding a new component called search.jsx. And I am using here function and export. Function name is search demo. And it will return some fragment. So search demo. Okay. Now what we are doing here is we are having some data. So we will put this in the route path in app.js. So in the route path we are adding. So route path search and the element is search. demo. We are adding this route path. So we can directly access the route path. We can directly access the route path here. We are accessing /search and it will get us the search demo. How to pass parameters we already learned. But here now I am using here, I am passing some query string. Question mark is a query string. Question mark, and actually when you submit any form, I will show in the search, you design a form and the form method is get, and we have a data list data term, some name. So input type is text and the name is equal to name, and age, input type is number and name is equal to age. You already know every element requires a name, and we have a button submit. Now what happens is in the name, I entered some name, I entered some age, and when I submitted, this data is submitted in the URL. It is submitted in the URL as query string. When it is submitted in the URL as query string, you can submit to some other path, some other location you can submit. So generally, how you submit to some other location? How the form can submit to some other location? Actually, do you know form have an action? Am I right? Form action. Suppose I am giving this form action and /login. That means roughly I'm defining like that. That means now I entered some data and some age and click on submit. That action will be to user login. It will go to the login, and in the login, it will send this data. That means we are navigating from one component to another and we are transporting the data. For example, I will give here another component called results.jsx. Export function results component and return some results. I'll give as results. Now here in the app, you need results also. So route path results element is, we have element as results. The results component path is also mentioned here. Now, when user clicks on search and submits, it should go to which one? Results. That means we will go here and access as search. In that we are entering the data and click on submit. This data is submitted to the results page. Now what we have to do in the results page, we need to collect the data and use it. But these are not route parameters now. How to collect route parameters? By using a hook called useParams. UseParams is used for collecting route parameters, but these are not route parameters. These are search parameters. These are search parameters. In general, you call it as query string. In routing, we call them as search parameters. Now, actually in JavaScript, we call it by using location search. Here, we are configuring a constant some params is equal to use search parameters. We are importing that use search parameters. And search parameters, it contains getter and setter. That means, so the parameters and set params. We can get the parameter and we can set the parameter. So now I'm using use effect. Use effect is on load. What we will do here is we will display the results. So console.log, and we are using params. Just I'm logging those params. That means now here in the inspect and in the console, and you see URL search parameters object is coming and size is 2. And the search parameters have a function like get. It have function like get all. It is keys has. Can you tell what this belongs to? These all methods belongs to whom? These all methods belongs to a map. They all belong to a map. Generally, object is a key and value collection. Map is also a key and value collection. What is difference between JavaScript object and map? JavaScript object, all keys are string type. Value can be any type. JavaScript object needs explicit methods for manipulating, like deleting a key, reading the keys, right? Finding a key. But map have all implicit methods. Implicit methods like entries, get all. So what is the point here? So now I'm using params is a map dot get all. I'm using get all. So get all is actually returning the parameters. You can see get all. It is actually argument is required. So what is the argument required? So that means it is going to get 0, 1 and all. That means usually we use get all actually returns one array. Here we are using get any name string. So what is the name? I'm using like name, get name. This refers to what? That refers to the key, whatever the key is there. The key is what? John. You can access the keys and values. That means we are accessing the keys and values. Map, you know how to deal with it. How to read all the keys, how to read all the values. You know, it is an array. So how do we read all of them? To read all of them, you know, generally we need a iterator. Na? What is the iterator? So what is the iterator? For var item of, what is it? Params dot entries. Params dot entries. Entries will return both keys and values. That means console.log, I will return an item. That means it is going to return all the entries. Entries means you can see these two, it is going to return. One contains name, another contains the age. Both key and value. You can refer to any particular key or you can refer to any particular value. If you want to access the age, then how do you access the age? To access the age, we have to use console.log params dot get what? Age. So it is going to access the age and it is going to display the age. Age is 22. So the search parameters, you modify that. In the search parameter, I modified to 25. That means it is going to get that and display that 25. Why it is loading two times already I told you. How to control that I already told you in life cycle. Right? What you have to do, you have to remove the strict mode. Then it will display only once. So this is generally search parameter. Why you need search parameter? We need search parameters in order to transport data from one component to another. Usually what is the data? Majority the data that is transported through search parameter is a form data. And form data is transported on which request you can transport? On get. On post, when you submit, it is not in query string. Where it is present? In the form body. It is present in the form body. On get request, you can do that. So here another question is how to access that. So constant get search and set search. Use search params. So get search map is a map type. That means we have get search dot get get search dot keys values entries like that. Right. So one example is suppose how you implement this. I just showed you this point. Suppose you see I am using here, we are going to search. Okay, in the search, we are adding something like, okay, so in this, what we are doing is, suppose let me add something happening slow here. Some issue is there. Okay, so here I'm designing some form. I think some issue is there. Let me say, yeah. Some, let's say, search, just like some say Google, and we have a input type is text, and here name is uh, str. Okay, that is the name we are using, and below this we keep a div with a button as such. Okay, so where we want this to navigate to results. So here in the results, we have to collect that search. That means we are having a state constant. Uh, this is str. So set str is equal to use state. Okay, it is a string type actually. And on load set str, we have to get params dot get str. That is the key we are using. And here we are giving a paragraph in that you are saying that you are searching for what str. That's what we are giving. Suppose now see, I will open the search. I will open the search here, slash search. The search will display like this. In this, I entered some string. This is like I am searching for React 18 something, and click on search. Then it says you are searching for React 18. That means we are transporting the data and we are collecting the data and using the data. Now, actually, in this results page, we can display only the results that belongs to React. Right? Suppose here some data is already present. We can filter and display only the data that is matching to it. Just like already what you done in Fake Store. In Fake Store, you passed a category as parameter, and you collected the category and displayed the products that belong to that particular category. Same concept you can implement here. For example, how you do that? Suppose in the search, you entered something like what jewelry, and you click on search. Then what should happen? It should get only the jewelry products and show. And how to get the jewelry products? You know what you do? Axios dot what get, and how you get https colon double slash fakestore.api.com/products slash category slash the category name is coming from where? It is coming from params dot get what str. It is coming from there. Dot then we have to collect that information and response, and we here we need to implement what is it. So it should implement some products we will give, or just I will give temporarily console.log. What is it? Response dot what? Data. You can store in a state, collect it and present it, right? Temporarily I'm doing that. That means it should get all the jewelry related products and show the jewelry related products here. You can see all jewelry products are coming. That means you are fetching only the products that are matching with that category. I'm just using a log, you display them here. You store in a state, you display them here. Already we know how to do that. So that means transporting data from one component to another by using what? Search parameters. Search parameters. This is an example. So in this example, so first what you have to do, add the components search.jsx and results.jsx. So search.jsx will have this code, and results.jsx will have this code, and app.js. In app.js, you need to add the route path for these two. The route path you need to define for these two. One is for search and another is for results. Right. So same your previous application, just you have to implement these points, how to handle the search parameters. So why you need search parameters if there are route parameters? So search parameters are required when form submits the data on GET. Because route parameters we can directly pass without a form. Without a form, on a link click also you are passing the parameter from one component to another. So if anyone asks this question as like, why to use search parameter if there are route parameters? So search parameters are used when form submits data on GET request. So route parameters are used when you want to transport data to any another component without without a form element, without a form element. Through form element, when you are transporting the data, then we can use the route search parameters. These are route parameters and search parameters. Right. So that is all important basic things about routes, how to handle them. Now, once you know this, now we can implement this one example. So usually how a learners practice end-to-end like concept is, Generally, they use JSON servers. Anywhere who is learning about React and all, usually they use a JSON server. We have a JSON server. In that JSON server, we can create one API, means JSON data, and we can communicate with the JSON data like get, post, put, delete operations we can do. But we will do in a real way, like we will maintain one database, we will write server side logic, and we will communicate with the front end application. We will create a complete full stack application. So what we will do now is we will create one MERN stack. We will create one MERN stack application. We will create a MERN stack application. First, I will teach you a small project. Later, we will create another major project. Small project first to have an idea of how everything is designed. After that, in the major project, half I will help, rest you have to do. Project is not for me, project is for you. That means you have to do. I will guide you in certain areas. You have to design. But one small example I will show completely. Based on that, you have to design the larger one, right? We will take a small example of, as usual, how people learn. Like we will create one to-do application. After that, we will create one video library application. Then we will create one shopping application. We will see three apps, three projects we will see. One project small, which I will give you complete CRUD operation demo. Then second and third projects, I will guide you. You have to do it. That's the process we need to follow. So a small application we will design first so that you will get a clarity on how navigation works, how all the CRUD operations are used. What is this MERN stack means? MERN stack, M stands for MongoDB, E for Express.js, and R for React, and N for Node.js. What is their job? So MongoDB is a database, is a database. So, and what is Express.js? Express.js is a middleware. Actually, middleware is it is a software framework for JavaScript, software framework used for handling communication between client and server app. It is used to handle communication between the client and server apps. So, like Express.js, there are so many middlewares. Different technology use different middleware. So, actually, Express.js is a framework for Node.js. It is a framework for Node.js. What it will do, I will tell you detailedly. What MongoDB will do, what Express can do, we will discuss them. And React already we know. React is a JavaScript library for building UI. And Node.js is a server side scripting technology used to configure server side business logic. It is used to configure the server side business logic. What it will do, I will show you. These points we will see. So we will use all these and we will build a complete end-to-end application. So data is kept in a database, and Express.js is used for handling communication between the client and server app. So let's see first here. We will have an idea on MongoDB database. Idea on the MongoDB database. Actually, for storing data, so any application requires some data to store. Generally, you have different types of apps. So usually means how we define this concept is actually applications we have. So one tier, we have two tier, and we have three tier applications. So we have one tier, two tier, and three tier applications. What is the point about this? What is one tier, what is two tier, and what is three tier? What is the point about this? Actually, if you are an experienced person, then you should know the difference between layers and tiers. In software technologies, application have layers and tiers. What is difference between layer and tier? In software technologies, application have layers and tiers. What is difference between layer and tier? Generally, when you are preparing a resume, so in the resume, how you mention about your projects, means suppose you are a fresher. How a fresher will mention the projects, I will tell you at the end. I will explain that. How experience will mention the project. Generally, experienced person already worked in some projects, right? And actually, we have a recent opportunity, but not for fresher. Any person is above 5 years experience, and he is on React and wants to change the company. And if already he is having a package like 15 or 16 lakh per annum, we have a opportunity. I have one of my friends company, and they are looking for a React developer, and they are ready to offer them. If already he is taking 15, 17 lakh, they are ready to double, means 34, 40 lakh for a React developer with 5 years experience. I have immediate requirement of 3 people on React. We have immediate requirement on some UI developer also, but UI full stack developer with little experience they need. They are already working on a project, they need that. That means now an experienced person, we have good opportunity, that is immediate requirement is there. So if anyone interested, if anybody is having, because you are learning now, some experienced people may be there already working and they want to change, then they can contact me so that I can guide them how to that company. But the point is, an experienced person, how he mentions the project, how he mentions about what project he done. By seeing that itself, we can understand that. So, okay, this person resume is good, because many times you don't get a call because of your resume. That means by seeing your resume itself, they are not satisfied. That means this person don't know how to mention his skills, and he don't know how to mention his projects. Then how he is a developer? We are not satisfied. Many times people get rejected because of their resume, even they have good skills. The problem is, first they are not shortlisted because resume is not impressive. So actually, for experienced people, how they mention the projects, I will tell you. Means the, because to know database, you need to know that. Actually, suppose I will show a point here. Suppose you are having some experience of 3 4 years. How we mention a resume? How we mention that in a resume? Suppose, see, actually you developed, so you have 5+ years experience. Now you have done 2 projects. In that 5 years, you have done worked on 2 projects. Suppose project one, project A. This project A is a web application. Obviously, React developer means you are working on a web application. Some ABC web application, some web application it is. Now, how you mention about this project is, you will mention that, means first point is, you will mention that my web application is a 3-tier application. It is a 3-tier application. That is the first thing we mention. Is it 1 tier, 2 tier, or 3 tier? All web application are 3-tier application. Earlier we used to have entire, but now entire is condensed to 3-tier. Everything is a 3-tier application. All the web application that you are going to use or you are going to build are 3-tier application. What is meant by tier? What is the concept of tier? 3-tier application means, suppose, what is a 1-tier application? For example, you have a device. You have a device and you have a app. So you are having a app. This app is installed on this device. It is installed on that device and it will run on that device. It can use the device related hard disk space. It can use the device related RAM for storing some information temporarily, permanently, and accessing it. That means, does this app require any another device, or does this app requires any another software to store its data? No, it doesn't require any another device. It doesn't require any another software to store its information. Everything is maintained in one place. This is called 1-tier application. 1-tier application means you install on a device and you use it on that device. You can utilize that device memory. You can use that device. You don't need a separate software. You don't need a separate device. These kind of applications are as what? 1-tier. For example, you have Notepad, WordPad, MS Paint, you have MS Word. These are all what kind? 1-tier applications. Suppose in MS Word, you can save a file. Do you need a database for that? No, we save in the hard disk. That means it is utilizing the memory of that particular device. We don't need any separate software for that. These kind of applications are called as what? One tier application. One tier. Two tier application means this application is present in one device, but the data for that application we maintain in another device. That means we have another device. In this device, we will maintain the data for that application. That means application is in one device, its data is another device. In how many places the application is running? Two places. In one place it's data, in another place it's a app. This is two-tier application. That is a two-tier application. That means app is in one device and its data is in another device. Usually data is in database server. Database server is a separate computer where we can store the data. So application is running in how many locations? Two locations. So that is two-tier application. Three-tier application is nothing but three-tier application means you are the user. That means you are the client. Okay. And this is a computer. This is the app server. And this is another computer. This is database server. Database server. So where is the database? Database is in database server. Application is in application server. And you are using that application here. That means you are not using the application. So in the same machine means where it is present. That means application is present in one place. You are using from another place. So that means you are accessing the application and using it here. And its data is present some other location. For example, you are watching Netflix videos on your PC or on your mobile. Are those videos copied into your PC? No. Where those videos are present? Is Netflix present in your computer? Netflix is not in your computer. So web application, that means it is present in some other server. From there you are accessing in a browser, but the videos are not present there. Videos are present in its database. From database, the videos are coming. From the application server, app is coming and you are watching in another place. So data is at one place, app is in one place and you are using from another place. This is what kind of infrastructure? Three-tier application. Almost all web applications are three-tier. All are three-tier application. Every web application is a three-tier application. So application runs in tiers. Application runs in tiers. So one tier database, another tier application, another tier we call presentation. Presentation means where you use it. Now, how this application is built? That means we need to build the database. We need to build the server side logic and we need to build the UI. That means actually application runs in tiers and application is built in layers. And actually we have three layers. One is database layer. So we have another layer called database layer. We have an application layer, or people call it as business layer. Business layer. And we have another layer called presentation layer. Presentation layer is nothing but it is an UI layer. That means what is the job of a developer? That means many times what people do mistake is they will say that I done this project. Seriously, that is wrong. How you can do a project? That means you cannot do a project. Project is not something like one person can sit and do simply. Means I am telling about the real time large applications, right? That means you cannot say that I done a project. You have to say that I worked on a project and in that project, my job was in UI layer. or my job was in database layer, or my job was in business layer. If it is a large scale project, you will not have a chance to work in multiple layers. You will work in only one layer. If it is a small scale project, then you may work with multiple layers. But majority of real time developers job, almost it will be in only one layer, because we have separate people for separate layers. That means what is the job of a developer in database layer? What is the job of a developer in database layer? Creating database tables, writing the queries, all this job is done by using database. So what is the job of a person in database tier? What is the job of a person in database tier? Database tier means where database is running. That means where database is running, there, what is your job? Taking backup of data, recovering the data, performance of data, maintaining the database server, everything is the job. We call it as DBA. That means you, as a developer, you should not say that my application is a 3-tier application, but you should not say that I worked in database tier. You should say that I worked in a database layer, because you are not a database administrator. If you are a database administrator, your job in tier, your job is in layer. That means your application is 3-tier, but your work will be in 3 layers. What is the job of a developer in database layer? The job of a developer in database layer is creating database tables, writing the queries and all. What is the job of a developer in business layer? Writing the server side logic used to communicate with the database, creating APIs, communicating with the client side. That is all done in business layer. What is the job of a developer in the UI layer, presentation layer? Building the user interface, creating the user interface and all. That means how you mention, you will mention that my web application is a 3-tier application. So my role, so was in, my role was in suppose UI layer. That is what you will mention. Or you say my role was in database layer. If it is UI layer, then what are my responsibilities? My responsibilities. What are the responsibilities? My responsibility is consuming APIs, configuring state, configuring state, creating components, creating components. Am I right? Components, creating components, configuring the state, consuming the APIs. These are all my responsibilities. Now, do you know when we see the resume of an experienced person like this, then we will ask questions relative to this one. We will not ask anything extra. That means what we do by seeing the resume. Remember, an experienced person resume interview will be almost 90% interview will be on his resume only. They will not ask questions here and there. They will ask from his resume. That means they will see his resume. They will say that, okay, in first project, you worked in UI layer and you mentioned that you worked with APIs. Now tell me what libraries you used for API. Then he will say that I used Axios. Then he will ask the question, why not fetch? Why not jQuery Ajax? Why you used Axios? What is difference between them? That means now questions will be relative to that. And he will ask like, okay, you maintain state. So which state you maintain? What is context? What is state? So what is reducer? What is difference between cookies, local storage, session storage? Because you mentioned about state. Then now I will ask you questions on state. Why you need state? What is the concept of state? How many state management techniques are there? Okay, you mentioned about components. You said that I worked with forms. Then, so what Form library we use. Why you used that form library? In that form library, how you managed these interactions, how you validated, how to use the validations. That means almost every many times people ask like, sir, can you send us experience interview questions answers? There is nothing like a question bank have questions answers. You by heart them and go and they will ask. Right? What do you think? You are a school or a college kid, that you will have a question bank and you will by heart those questions, read them, and he will ask out of them. That's like silly thing. Many times people ask this because they don't know the concept. That means they don't know that interview is not about asking you questions and getting an answer from you. Interview is about testing your skill level, not your answering level. It is testing your skill level. Skill level means we will ask the question so relative to your concepts, what you learned, but we will ask in such a way that you should able to address the issues. Issue based questions will be there. If I got this problem, how to solve this? So you mentioned that in your project you used it. Why you used it? Where you used it? For experienced people, we ask like, tell me some issues that you faced in your project. How you solved those issues? Because you mentioned 4 years experience, you worked on a project. Obviously, you might have got some issues. And what issues you faced on that particular concept? How you resolved those issues? Why you used that for resolving the issue? This is how the questions asked for an experience. And many times we don't see this in a resume clearly. That means when an experienced person sets a resume, we should see what is the project architecture. We should see what is the role, and we should see what are the responsibilities. These three must be mentioned. That means now tell me what is difference between tier and layer. What is the difference between tiers and layers? Applications are built in layers. We build application in layers. UI layer, we will build the presentation. Business layer, we will write the server side logic, APIs and all. A database layer, we build the database. Now, after building the database, where database is kept? In database server. That means database is running in database server. That is one tier. In another tier, we put the application. Application is hosted on application tier. It is running in application tier. And we watch this from a presentation tier. That means what is difference here is actually application. Application is built in layers. That means UI layer, business layer, and database layer. And application runs in tiers. Presentation tier. So application tier and a database tier. So in multi-tier application, the data is kept in a database. The data is kept in a database. In multi-tier application, the data is kept in database. It is kept in database. And actually, what is the current point about database? That means database is a software. Database is a software used to maintain Relational data is a software used to maintain relational data. Actually, we can store data in a file. What is difference between data in a file and data in a database? So data which is stored in database, it is easy to maintain relation. Having a relational data is not great in a file. Actually, we use files also to store data. We use Excel files. We use HTML tables also to store data. We can store data in a file also. But what is the point about database is to maintain relational data. Actually, we have databases are categorized into two types in the current market. We have SQL based and we have NoSQL based. NoSQL or non-SQL. So people call as non-SQL or NoSQL, SQL, anything. SQL based database and non-SQL based database actually. So SQL based database, SQL is a language and this is a language universally used for databases. Every database is not a SQL based database. In the current generation, we have databases which without SQL language. So MongoDB is a non-SQL database. That means it doesn't need the SQL language. You don't need to learn a SQL language. It is just like JavaScript methods. That means it provides some JavaScript like functions. We can use those functions to manipulate the data. Now we will see what are the features of MongoDB as a database. What are the features of MongoDB as a database? And how to install, how to set up, and how to create a database. So we will take a project, and for that project, we will try to build the database. We will create a small application. So what is the advantages of MongoDB? How MongoDB is installed and set up, and how to create database with MongoDB, we will see. That we'll see in tomorrow's session. So in our tomorrow session, we are going to start working with the database, MongoDB. Once we are aware of all the MongoDB commands and everything, we will create one database. Then we will go to server-side logic, Node.js, how to design APIs, create APIs by our own. All these days we were using existing API. Now we will create our own APIs. That we will see in next session. Tomorrow we'll continue with that. Okay, right.
Recording stopped.